Hi, my name's Chris, and welcome to the Velocino Cycling Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Velocino Cycling Podcast. Tonight we're Niels. Hi Niels, how you doing?
Good. Finally, you're back.
I know, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while. It was, we were just speaking about it, but just before we started recording, actually, there were like so many things in our lives, like illnesses, kids were busy, holidays, bank holidays, busy with life in general.
I know, we're missing Mike tonight.
Yeah, we're missing Mike.
He's not having a massage actually, he's genuinely busy. Genuinely busy.
Exactly.
But it doesn't actually feel like that long ago since I saw you, because we did manage to get out the weekend and do some cycling.
That was really good. Some of you listeners might know I haven't been on my bike that much recently, and I have a big one coming up actually, because I'm on mid of May. I'm going with like 15 people or so to Mallorca for some riding, and I was really scared for the long rides. So Gemma convinced me to go out for at least like an 80-kilometer ride to see if it actually works.
I know, and it started off as fine. I was 10 minutes. I think it was 10 minutes. Niels was like, "Excuse me, guys, just need to adjust my saddle."
A little bit down.
10
minutes later, a little bit up.
A little bit up, a little bit down. 3 times, I think.
Yeah, and then
3 times. You disguise one of them in a cafe stop.
That was good because I ran out of food because I didn't bring any food.
What I actually said was, "Niels, you better not bonk on us."
Yeah, that was. I was about to.
Were you really?
I was.
You said no, it's fine.
I was done the whole day afterwards. Actually, I was so tired. Like the kids wanted to play. Like I built them like a 2 meters times 2 meter sand pit. By the way, to all the dads out there, if you are ever in the moment of, I'm going to build you something cool, don't build 2 meters times 2 meters sand pit, because you will need half a ton of sand. And if it gets delivered to your doorstep, you don't want to have it delivered to your doorstep because you have to bring it all in the garden. Anyways.
Is that what happened?
Let's not go into the details.
And then the Sunday they were like, "Daddy, can we play?" And you're like,
no, we don't have sand.
Exhausted.
Yeah, you have to bring the sand in first.
That's not bad.
With the little wheelbarrows.
Anyway, I thought you did really well. It
Thank
was
you.
just over 3 hours, which I think is good. It stands you in good stead for Mallorca.
Yeah, I think it was good. So, but that's not what we want to talk about.
No,
We don't want to speak about Mallorca again. We don't want to speak about sandpits. Gemma, what are we talking about?
Well, tonight I have a friend actually on. I haven't seen this friend for a while, so it's really nice, genuinely, to catch up, which is great. I'm going to introduce you to someone who I started running with in the days long time ago now, probably 10 years ago. It's got a great story to tell actually, and some really interesting things. So I'm interested to hear what he's going to say. Niels, you don't know a thing, so it's going to be really good for you.
I know a little bit. A little bit.
So, listeners, I'm going to introduce you to Chris.
Evening, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem. How you
Hi,
doing?
Chris.
Nice to meet you, Niels.
Nice to meet you. To be fair, we met 5 minutes ago at the door.
We did, yeah.
I said hello.
Pleasantries out of the way.
Didn't just transport you in. That's fine. And Chris, it's great to see you, because I don't think we've met being in person to see each other for a long time, but I follow Chris's antics on Instagram, which is kind of how we got talking again, actually. So Chris, tell us a little bit about you, your family, your life, your day job.
So I'm 38, just. Husband
And wife?
and wife.
In one person.
So yeah, husband to a great girl, Nat. Got 2 kids, 2 and 7. I live in West Herts. I've been a police officer for 16 years. And yeah, just enjoy my cycle. Well, a little bit of cycling, mostly running, a little bit of canicross, which is how we met. And yeah.
First, I want to find out what that actually is. I have a rough idea, and I think I know what it is.
What, canicross?
Yeah.
Gemma's never talked about canicross before.
All the time, but I never asked. In our
Just ignore it.
It's always like, there's so many words in our conversation that I just don't know, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So canicross, that's how I met you actually, and it was Gemma that got me into canicross. So I
didn't know this originally.
No, yeah. So probably around the same time, we both had Vizsla puppies, Hungarian Vizslas, really sort of high highly motivated, high energy dogs.
My Vizsla hated Chris's Vizsla.
Yeah, it was a
Don't
love.
Vizslas always hate other Vizslas?
Only mine.
No, yeah, it was only Chester, and it was love hate because Hudson loved.
Hudson loved Chester, which made him hate Hudson
Even
even more.
And I was just struggling to find time to exercise and walk this dog twice a day for an hour each. And it was just before I was getting married, actually, in 2013. And I had a Vizsla Society magazine, and Gemma had done a feature article.
I don't remember this. I kind of do know you said,
Yeah,
actually,
done this article about canicross, which I should explain is a sport where it came out of Scandinavia, didn't it? And Eastern Europe. So sledge dogs in the off season obviously still need to be exercised. So owners would run with the dogs, or alternatively strap a bike on the back.
Oh, I can do that.
Yeah, you could do that. They call that bike shore.
Oh.
And then it's just a case of exercising the dogs when it was too hot to obviously run them with sleds, and there was no snow to run with sleds. So it came over here. It's really popular now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's similar for me, actually. I started it because, again, I had this Vizsla that, you can do it with any dog, but this Vizsla that had boundless energy, and I was like, what on earth am I going to do with it? And I want to get some exercise in as well. I know what I'll do. I think I started in the winter, actually, because I didn't want to walk around the fields in the dark, and I was like, I actually ran on the streets, which is not actually that ideal, but at the time, I didn't know.
But not on a sledge.
No, there's no sledge for me, no sledge road. So that's how I did it, and Chester got some great exercise, and I was getting exercise at the same time. He was exhausted, I was exhausted. But we met a group called Ashridge Canicrossers, who will forever be, hold fond memories for me, because I have just did so much with them and met Chris through them. And we met up at Ashridge. We'd all meet up. I only seem to remember it being in the dark, but I'm sure there was some other
Wednesday
times
nights,
as well.
Saturday morning sometimes.
Wednesday night, Saturday mornings, met up. Maybe 10 of us, but it expanded to a lot more than that. All turning up with all sorts of dogs. Some people had like multiple dogs.
Like a poodle.
Yeah.
Anything, literally.
Chihuahuas? No.
Sausage dogs.
Sausage dogs.
They can run.
Yeah.
They're more like sliding, right? Like they're the guys like.
No, honestly, some of the like leggy ones.
Yeah, any dog at all. And it was a bunch of people that, some people were competing at the time, and I was like, wow, we'll come on to that in a minute. And other people were there, just to exercise their dogs, like Chris and I were originally. All sorts, brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's. It's not a cycling podcast anymore. No, it's welcome to the Villagino Canicross podcast.
We can branch out.
Let's do that.
Anyway, it is brilliant. It's fantastic, and we met someone there called George, who is just so knowledgeable about it. He taught us, probably both of us, in equal measure, so much about our dogs and learning to run with them and trust them. And I think, to this day, there's probably no feeling like the feeling when you've raced or run with your dog and it's actually done what you've asked it to do, which is sometimes rare. They don't, despite popular or contrary to popular opinion, they don't go off all over the place. They're quite sort of tuned in, especially to each other, and they just follow each other, and they absolutely love it.
Oh, fantastic!
I remember Hudson. He was he was great. He loved it, and he was goofing around, and Chester was obviously really serious.
It's so good.
Yeah.
No, I just know it from Wendover Woods here, like when I go mountain biking with Benny, my dog, who is like a Cyprus special. Like he's a bit of a
rescue.
Yeah, he's a bit of a what is he? Pointer cross
Labrador,
basically mix. He looks like a pointer.
Yeah.
Pointer Labrador cross.
Ideal for canicross.
Is he?
Yeah.
See, I'm hooked. I mean, the problem is I don't run. Oh, I do the other thing.
Let's see. Do we think Neil's ideal for canicross? I'm joking.
I'm too heavy for Benny.
Have you got a mountain bike?
I do, yeah.
With a bit of bike sure you'll be fine.
Did you bike with Hudson?
Never got round to it.
No. So we're talking about Hudson actually, and Hudson was a much loved member of your family, but I know that he's not around now.
No,
sorry.
What tell us a little bit about Hudson, I suppose.
I mean, we tried the whole Gondog thing and failed miserably. So again, it was just trying to find something to do with him that would utilise the old grey matter in the brain, sort of tucker him out a bit more than just an hour's worth of walking. Canicross was it. He was really good at it. So, I mean, I'd never been sporty up until then. Hated competition when I was younger. I used to swim a lot. Used to swim for Berkhamsted Swimming Club. But hated competition, went to a few galas, just packed it up. Just didn't like the competition. So found this sport with Hudson. Started going to a few amateur events. Ended up taking a couple of podium finishes, and it was like this bug that I'd never experienced before. Never had that feeling before of being pretty competitive and able at it. So just a great partner really. And of course you get to train them. They take directions left and right on the trail.
Slow down when you go, obviously when you go down
a hill.
You want them to come next to you, not pull you down the hill. That takes a while.
And of course, pull you up the hill.
They do, yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But those points where you're like, oh, do you know what? I'm done. They're sort of pulling up these hills, and then of course they get you to speeds that I'd never have reached without a dog pulling me. Sort of 6 minute miling.
Yeah, for anyone that runs, they take off, I reckon, a minute mile.
It's exhilarating. It really was. But sadly lost him in 2015, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry for that.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's part of life, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
With canicross, I think here where we live, the bottom of Wendover Woods, by the way, if anyone from the canicross organization listens to that, there's a sign warning of people. There will be a canicross race on Sunday, and this is there since January. They forgot to pick it up. Can somebody pick it up, please? Thank you. Joke. Let's leave it.
That's
for next year.
I'll take it. I'll go and get it.
I'll go get it. I'll go and fetch it for you.
So I know Hudson, got you into the sport, or back into sport and getting fit and training again. When you sadly lost Hudson, did you carry on canicross? I'm sure I saw you with other Vizslers.
Yeah, so my dad ended up getting a Vizsla. He obviously wasn't put off with mine. So I carried on running with him a couple of years later. But of course, when we're over here running, winter's fine, but we get to the summer, it gets quite humid, and it's a big no-no for the dogs. So in order to sort of stay competitive throughout the winter, I was running then on my own during the summer, which I'd never really done. Hated cross country at school, but I'd sort of found my love for it. So I carried on running through the summer, and then I met a couple of friends who own a local trail running company, and they obviously canicross with me, and they offered me a job to go and become a trail run leader.
No wonder I saw so many Instagram posts.
So I ended up, sort of getting paid to do the hobby I love. So
it's fantastic.
And obviously that incentivised me to sort of stay fit, stay active. Was doing it right up until recently. So if anything really, I run more than I canicross now. It's just when I'm able to go and get my dad's dog, I take him up to Ash.
Chester any time. We had a discussion about this though before we started, and Chris was like, "How is Chester nowadays?" And I was like, "It's not as competitive as it used to be."
He was fast. I mean, you both were incredibly fast.
Chester was sort of 70% of that.
Yeah,
speed,
well,
actually.
aren't they always?
Yeah, really good.
So good. So, I'm really hooked. I will give it a crack.
Yeah, I think you should.
You should.
I know we talk about cycling a lot, but honestly, you can do it with cycling, which would be another great episode to talk with someone about. But it is really good way. And you know what? When we get back from our bike, and I said to you on Sunday, I was like, oh, I've got to walk the dog. You haven't got to do that. It's all done, all in one.
That's true.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So what happened, Chris? Kind of from there, really. I know you had this as a job. Your trail running was really good. Did you carry on with that?
So I obviously carried on with the working for Run the Wild, running in my own time. So did that for a couple of years, and then of course we came into COVID times. And I wanted to give myself a bit of an objective during lockdown, and I'd never really taken on a 5k before. I've done the local park runs, but of course like Wendover and Tring, you don't really get an idea of what your 5k PB could be.
Yeah, not super fast
so hilly.
courses, are they? Yeah.
So I started training, just took a program off my Garmin software where they, it's like the computer generated coaching.
Yeah.
And I did a 5k program. And I did that in November 2020, I think. But of course, it was all road running. So I picked up a bit of plantar fasciitis.
Oh, road runners.
So that was sort of the back end of November after I'd done this 5k. I took it really seriously. It was, it was giving me grief. So I think it was 12 weeks off. Took 12 weeks, no running during COVID lockdown over Christmas.
Not brilliant.
Pretty miserable. And then I started following a chap's return to running program. I think it's James Dunn on YouTube.
Yeah, he's really good actually. Really good.
And it was great. Lots of strength work, which is the way to get rid of this plantar fasciitis. And I was obviously climbing the walls, not doing any exercise, and of course I had a bike on the wall in the garage, a white Dorset, just something I picked up on one of the cycle to work schemes.
We've all got some of that.
So I took myself out, started cycling a couple of times a week just to sort of keep the legs turning over while I wasn't running. And then I bought some CX Pro tyres.
Oh yeah, really good. Yeah.
I mean, it's an old alloy bike, so I started going up into Ashridge with it, and I loved it.
To remind you of good old times.
Yeah, it's good. I had mountain bikes throughout my childhood, and spent many a time up at Ashridge mountain biking. So then it really kind of made me think, I'm sort of missing out on the mountain bike malarkey. So I sort of pestered the wife, and she finally gave in, and I managed to bag, because obviously we've had a real shortage of bikes, haven't we, over the lockdown. Managed to get a bike up at Sigma Sports, so I got an Orbea Ockham H30. This is a mountain bike, yeah. So full suspension bike, and spent the summer riding that in sort of 2021, and then I was up at Rushmere Bike Park October 2021, probably acting younger than my age. Took a gap jump, and the cardinal sin, I hadn't recce'd the trail before sort of taking it on.
Just a quick interruption here. Acting younger than your age, I think.
Yeah.
Most of our listeners can refer to that.
Yeah.
Like all of us.
Well, sort of my wife certainly takes the mickey and sort of says, you still think you're 18.
Well, we are.
But we
are men, right? We are
boys
boys trapped in the body of a grown up.
Yeah. It's a curse, isn't it?
It is. That's who we are.
But yeah, I should have recce'd this trail before I took it on, and essentially it was a gap jump which I hadn't carried enough speed through, so I just ditched it on the side of the gap jump. Came off pretty hard. I was on my own, and probably typical man fashion, I was like uber embarrassed. I didn't want to. I know there was a couple of other guys further down in the valley in the park. I probably could have shouted out and sort of asked them to come in.
No way.
I'm like, no way. So I was there for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes in the dirt, pretty winded, managed to get myself up, and basically took the bike and hobbled back to the car. And then you're like, I know it was bad, but you're like, well, how am I going to get my bike home if I call an ambulance? Like, they're not going to be able to break the bike down, and they're not going to take it. Yeah, all these stupid issues that only a cyclist.
Ambulance should have bike care.
They should
bike
do.
rack.
They should in the Chilterns, yeah. So yeah, phoned good old wifey, and we'd just gone down to one car, so she's like, well, that's great, but you've got the car, like how am I going to get to you?
The Fiat 500.
Yeah, so thankfully our friend came and dropped her off. We got in our car, and we went to Stoke Mandeville, and that's where it sort of kicked off.
So what had you done?
So I'd suffered a lung contusion. So hence the sort of the issues with breathing, and I'd fractured a few ribs, and then I'd fractured my finger actually, which you can still see is a bit wonky. So it was when I was put onto the CT scanner that they,
for your lungs,
for my lungs, that they've obviously noticed this issue. So I'd been down there, I'd come back up, and I was sort of laying there, and then the doctors come in again and said, we're just going to take you back down for another CT scan. So I thought, well, they probably just missed something, or just check something else. So I hadn't really thought too much about it, but did wonder. So I was back down there again. I was just about to go into the tunnel, and the nurse, obviously, who was putting me in, sort of said, oh, they're just a bit worried about your heart. And I was like, oh my god, like, I know it was a crash, but I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah.
So I suddenly was a bit worried about it all. Had the CT scan, brought me back upstairs. Doctor came in about an hour later and said, oh, we need to speak to John Radcliffe at Oxford, the hospital. because we've noticed this enlarged aorta on the CT scan. So this, mind's blown really. I'm sort of wondering what it's all about. Didn't make much sense at the time.
Did you still think at that stage that it might be to do with just from the crash?
Yeah. And to be honest, the doctors expected to know so much, aren't they? He wasn't hugely knowledgeable on the subject either, so he was taking a lot of direction from the John Radcliffe. So yeah, at that stage, I still thought, is it something I've done during the impact? And then they've basically looked at my results and said, no, he needs a referral, but he's good to go home tonight. So that was like, okay, ticked off the first box.
Yeah.
And that's when he kind of explained, once he'd sort of had it fed back from John Radcliffe, that it was likely it was something that has resulted from a congenital issue, something I've been born with. So I was like, straight away, thank God, like the wife's not going to sell the bike. It's just by chance this has happened.
A small reprieve from the crash.
Yeah.
Really not in any way, but
I just like the prioritizing. Like you lie there in the dirt. No, I'm not calling the ambulance because they don't know how to bring my bike home.
Yeah, all these first
or
world
they just
problems.
found out something is wrong with my heart. Oh, luckily I don't have to sell my bike.
Yeah, if anything, I need, it should be up on the wall, and it's resulted in me finding out something that I never knew about. It's pretty serious. So yeah, fast forward a few weeks, and I'd had a referral made to a cardiologist over at Wickham. And I went to see him in early December, and that's when he explained what I had. And in between that, I'd had an ultrasound on my heart at Stoke Mandeville. So yeah, basically I've got a bicuspid aortic valve in the heart, which has caused the aorta to enlarge. So the bicuspid valve, you've got 4 valves in the heart, and the bicuspid aortic valve is the one it's the last one. It's the last door out the heart.
Okay.
So once the lungs have oxygenated your blood, the heart then's ready to pump it around the body, and it leaves via the BAV, and goes up through the aorta, and then the aorta takes it down to the sort of tummy area, really, where your stomach gets all its blood, and then it obviously goes down into the femoral arteries.
Yeah. Okay.
So the aortic valve, it almost has like 3 shutters on it. They all meet in the middle. And
I do watch Hobby City.
Yeah, so you know.
I don't.
Well, you won't even know what it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm just listening. I have a question for that in a second.
So it's got sort of three. They call it leaflets, but they're like 3 doors. They obviously come together to seal the valve, and they come apart to let the blood flow through. So essentially, when I was born, or when I was developing, I should say, 2 of those doors stuck together, and they never separated. So the valve's compromised. It's not able to seal itself properly. So I think, for my basic understanding of it, obviously the heart pumps the blood out, but it's going through a lot smaller space. So there's like this pressure that hits the side of the aorta and just makes the aorta over time.
That's
because
why
obviously
it's got larger. Okay.
That's why it's got larger. And my surgeon said, because I'm quite, I think he said tall and elasticy.
I thought he was going to say, because you're quite fit.
Well, yeah, but yeah, sort of tall and elasticy. I'm that much more prone to the aorta sort of stretching.
Okay.
So the risk comes when that aorta eventually hits a point where it, they call it dissection, it splits, and the blood, all that oxygenated blood that's supposed to go around the body, ends up hemorrhaging out the side of the aorta. So that's the danger there.
Okay. Danger.
And then obviously this compromised valve, because it can't seal correctly, when the heart's pumping out the oxygenated blood, because it doesn't seal properly, it brings a load of blood back in.
Yeah.
So my heart's having to work twice as hard to try and eject that blood that's come back in. They call that regurgitation. So there's 2 issues. There's the regurgitation, which causes sort of fatigue, tiredness, and some other symptoms. And then there's obviously just this enlarged aorta. So mine should be about 20, and let me get this right. Mine should be 2 centimetres. because it's all relative to your size as well. And at the moment, mine's 5.2 centimeters.
Oh,
So it's
almost
twice,
double.
just over twice.
Well, there's so
twice
many
the size.
questions from my side. Like,
Yeah.
first
Niels
of
and I
all,
were just listening. Like, wow.
yeah, I was like, wow. First of all these words. I was
Yeah.
like, this is a really stupid question potentially, but when you get diagnosed like this,
Mm.
what happened in your head where you're like, oh my goodness, there's so many words. Let me just find out and research everything about it, or did you know already quite a lot about it?
Yeah, I mean,
And then the second question is, when you got diagnosed about it, like, what was the first thing that went through your head? Really stupid question, but
yeah, I suppose so. Like, some of that had come out at Stoke Mandeville, and I left, and obviously it was COVID, so my wife, she wasn't allowed to be with me, so she's asking me all these questions. I'm like, to be honest, I can't really remember. It's all jargon. So there was a couple of weeks there where I was in limbo, not really understanding, and it was only when I got the letter from the GP, having had the ultrasound, that he obviously, this bicuspid, I didn't even know what he said on. In fact, it was a telephone call, not a letter, and I sort of had to get him to repeat what, and then Google it.
yeah, they always say don't Google it because I think this is the horror.
It's literally like I'm not sure what you mean. So initially, and then of course, I mean, Google. God, you Google stuff. It's
just a negative stuff.
Oh man, it is. Yeah, and it's. I mean, the first few things you see are life expectancy. It's just, and up until now, I suppose I just thought I was going to live forever. Just so suddenly to get presented with this issue that might shorten your life. So it was pretty mind blowing. Yeah, I had some dark hours after that.
Imagine.
And not only do you have to manage your emotions about it and your thoughts, for good reason, you have to manage your family's thoughts on that as well. So that's difficult because Nat and not the kids so much because I don't know, but they all have different feelings and thoughts and things about it. They're not you, you're not them, and that's really hard for everybody as well. Yeah,
I think it's so tough, especially also during COVID, during lockdown, you had limited amount of people you could speak to. You couldn't hang out with all your mates and just like, guys, I'm really feeling shit, let's have a drink. Whatever, just to talk about it. Same for your wife and stuff. And,
so initially I stayed off the internet. I didn't Google much, particularly before I met the cardiologist at Wickham, Mr. Feruzan. Just because, and there'd be moments where you're like, you were just so curious. And obviously you were waiting for that
it's
appointment.
Quite a long wait.
We're talking like 2-3 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So, and you'd kind of dip into the internet and you'd come out of it and you'd be on a low. And then it got to the point where I met Mr. Feruzan over at Wickham, and he obviously explained, look, this is what you have, and this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna have surgery, and you're gonna have a mechanical valve. And I'd obviously Googled a little bit about what the options were. So it's difficult. I say to people, there's no perfect solution to a bicuspid aortic valve. The aorta itself, that's an easy fix because they literally put a piece of pipe in. I think it's Teflon, and that's fixed. That's going to last forever. The issue for me really is the valves, the mechanical valve. Yes, it's going to last for decades, but it requires anticoagulation. So the body obviously treats this metal or onyx carbon object as a foreign body, so it just wants to clot this thing. So of course you have to go on to warfarin and take that for forever.
Yeah, that's life changing.
And then you have to kind of manage. They call it INR. I can't remember what it means, but it's the level of coagulation that your body has.
I do know my dad has to go through this for a similar. After he had a stroke, he now takes warfarin and measures it. And it took completely different. He's in his 60s, but it took a little while. But then once it's stabilised. I think once it's stabilised, and you can get machines, and you self-test every week, and sort of you can keep on it. Whereas I think back in once upon a time, it was making sure you went to a clinic and had it done by a nurse. So it's a bit easier. But
you know, with being a policeman on the front, you know, I've been front line. That's all I know. My sport, you know, I've just bought this mountain bike. My trail running, you know, it's not just road running. It's sort of, you know, trip hazards and running through Ashridge and Wendover. So I suddenly had all these sort of things to think about. And then again, you're on the internet. It's like Google warfarin. It's like, these are the downfalls of warfarin and why you shouldn't be on warfarin. And
Your life just changed
Yeah.
overnight. Did they say to you fairly promptly about a lifestyle change? Sounds like you had an awful lifestyle, but about that quite quickly, or did they not really give any guidance? And then you were thinking, I don't know, do I do anything?
I suppose my first question was like at this this appointment when he said about the mechanical valve. I said, well, my job's pretty active. It's, you know, I get injured. You know, I sort of the nature of my work, you know, often involved in sort of contacts with vehicles. So straight away I'm like, is this something that I can be on whilst being a frontline officer? And he said, well, you know, there's plenty of jobs in the police that you could go off and do. So straight away I was like, okay, well that's massive change.
Also, that's not what you necessarily want to hear. Or...
No, of course not. Yeah. No, it's kind of why I do it. You know, it's the running and cycling wasn't so much of an issue because, you know, okay, if I'm gonna have to switch to road running, that's fine. If I have to get rid of the mountain bike and get a nice Gucci road bike, I can deal with that. But yeah, like a massive thing to have to deal with. So I've kind of left that meeting like, don't get me wrong, I've always been sort of super lucky. That's how I felt, in that I've just had this thing identified, diagnosed purely by chance. So I was, you know, buzzing on that side of things, but just this adjustment that I had to get used to thinking about this mechanical valve. So that was December, and then I didn't get a chance to meet my surgeon before then. Had a few other examinations. I had to have like my carotid arteries sort of scanned just to make sure the blood was able to go up there when I put on the heart lung bypass machine. And various a catheter up through the femoral artery just to sort of make sure the heart was good otherwise. Because once they're in there, they might as well correct anything else that might crop up. So that came back fine. And then I met this surgeon in March, and he obviously explained what would happen. And by then I'd come round to what was happening, and to be honest, I'd Google everything.
I think once you're in it,
and that's the thing.
You can't find anything worse. There is, I know Google is infinite, but you're in it. Let's get as much information as you can.
And people always ask, you know, are you scared, or, you know, and it's weird. It's sort of in you. So what else do I do? You either sort of cower away in the corner and not think about it, or just take the bull by the horns and get on with it. And I found myself doing that. So I ended up Googling everything. I've watched the operation on YouTube. I've sort of watched videos on what to expect when I wake up from the surgery, what happens before the surgery. So I had this idea of what living with a mechanical valve was going to be like. And then got round to speaking to the surgeon, and he's a huge advocate at the moment for these organic valves, these organic tissue valves, which they're basically stored differently to the traditional organic valves, which are perfect in that they don't require any warfarin, but they only tend to last sort of 10 to 12 years, because they're stored in a wet solution. And then once they're in the body, they tend to calcify, and that's why they end up becoming ineffective and requiring replacement. So they tend to give those to older patients. But this new valve by, I think it's Edward Sciences in America, they've worked out a way of storing it dry, so it's not kept in a solution, which means it doesn't calcify. And they reckon in lab tests that they're lasting twice as long. So he's like, look, your lifestyle, your job,
Yeah, so you get the option, like you don't have to go on the
Yeah.
warfarin. And still, was it the option? Was he quite clear? This is just completely up to you.
Yeah,
you're
like-
guiding it. Yeah.
He said, this is a mechanical valve, this is the Edwards Life Science valve. He did say, look, with your lifestyle, your work, this would be something I would recommend.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
And this is what you're going to try?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not a perfect solution. It's only probably been live within a human being in America for about 7 years at the longest point so far. So we don't know real world like how long it's going to last. But the data and the lab results suggest that it's twice as long as these organic bovine valves.
But that's me now with my dangerous half wisdom, basically knowing nothing about anything and being an outsider here. But I always think 10 or 12 years is quite a long time in technology or in engineering and science kind of things, like you never know what in 10 or 12 years might be. There might be like the perfect solution then, right? And I thought about this earlier when you said that you got diagnosed. In a way, like first of all, we're happy that you got diagnosed because then you can treat it, and also that you live now and not 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I think there's like so much of positivity around this. Like you are now in a time where we develop so many things, we find out so many things. Engineering is at the top end.
Yeah.
And again, 10 to 12 years is actually quite long.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't remember like.
Well, it might. Well, you said it might even be double that. Was it 10 to 12?
Yeah. So I think on paper, like on organic valves, 12 to 15. But I mean, you certainly read it happening sooner than that. And on the test results, they reckon twice as long. So
so some
20,
idea.
30 maybe,
really
30 at an absolute push. So it's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
But definitely no warfarin.
But definitely no warfarin.
So that's the one thing.
And I just think
big
if I'm going to
plus.
go through all of this, I don't want to come out the other side sort of with a compromised lifestyle.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I
No.
want
I think
to.
it is selfish at all. Yeah.
It's your life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Live it. You have to,
absolutely.
Right? And this is one thing that I want to find out, like I want to ask this earlier, but because you are really active, and obviously when you have an active lifestyle, you do a lot of sport, your heart is a muscle, your heart gets bigger. Do you think this had any impact on that?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I'm hoping to absolutely blast my 5k PB time.
Yeah, did you do it?
I did do it. Yeah, I wanted 20 or less, and it was, I think it was 20.
Hard,
do you know what? It's awful.
really hard.
It's awful.
That's what I run on one.
Everyone goes, oh,
Okay.
you think it's easy because it's short,
not.
but it's
No, so
because
hard.
you're all out 110% for 5k. So yeah, I got 21 minutes 10.
So
Yeah,
you want to beat that?
and what I've
Well,
read.
you had a compromised heart. Yes.
And what I've
pretty good.
read is people that have, particularly young sporty people, when they have this done, they feel like they've had a supercharger.
Yeah, because I wondered, like, do you feel as soon as you got it diagnosed, we're like,
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
well, but you obviously were fit, so you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could say, because people say, did you know you had
Did you
it?
feel it? Yeah.
And it's difficult, isn't it? Because young dads, kids,
Yeah.
shift worker. I've always felt tired, and the wife will sort of joke, you're like, oh, you're always tired. So you do wonder, and when you look it up, one of the symptoms is fatigue. But I've always just put it down to, well, I'm a shift worker, so I'm
And
constantly playing catch
older,
up.
aren't we, as well?
You're getting
So,
older. I've got a 2-year-old, I've got a 7-year-old. Like, of course you're tired. So yeah, I could say I was pretty tired, fatigued. I'd never had an issue with. I don't feel like I was ever compromised with my sport. It will be interesting to see when I go back to it. Whether,
until you come back.
Yeah, whether I'm like,
Olympics. Woohoo!
Yeah, exactly.
Boom.
So that will be interesting. I have migraines with like visual disturbance, and I've read since that a lot of people tend to have that. So that kind of made sense because that was always a bit weird. But otherwise, dizziness. So
It's quite a lot. She's down to 4 things.
Sorry, the list.
but do you know what it's because it's so gradual.
How is it that you? Yeah,
so gradual. So
yeah.
it's only when you read about it and you're like, Oh yeah, I do get dizzy when I stand up quickly, but you just sort because I did run around the house sort
Yeah,
of
and you got the
100
head
miles
down
an
with the
hour,
kids
like
or whatever. Yeah.
head rush when you're getting up quickly out of bed. Surely that everyone gets that.
Yeah, I mean, Neil said he got that after the Sundays, right?
Yeah, all the time.
And I just think because obviously I was born with it,
Mm.
and it gradually gets worse. Really, when you come into adulthood. So I asked the doctor, should I get the kids?
Yeah.
And he said, look, I wouldn't until they're adults because it doesn't present a problem.
Yeah, so it's not...
So really, when you think about it, late teens, early adulthood, these symptoms just sort of gradually come on.
Mm.
So it's very hard to suddenly go, oh, that's it. It's all just so gradual. You just don't notice.
And
them.
you're counteracting it a little bit by doing sport
By-
and doing things.
Yeah.
And, so.
Do you think doing sport has helped maintaining it better over the time? Or do you think if you would have not done sport,
Well, you wouldn't have had the crash.
well,
Yeah.
no, I'm
It
confused.
can only be a good thing, sport.
Yeah, I'm completely confused on how
I stopped you, sorry.
what I wanted to say. I wanted to say
Do you think fitness has put me in better stead for my op?
that's exactly what I want to ask.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly because I know that when you look on the internet, but the doctor said it as well. And this does tend to happen to older people. He said typically they'll be in for 7 to 8 days. He said looking at you, your weight, etc., your fitness, it's going to be 5 to 6 for you. So everything just comes down. Everything's shorter. Recovery period's going to be shorter because I'm just a bit younger, age on my side, but also I'm fit. So yeah, it can only help.
They always said, like, when the outbreak of COVID was at their peak and stuff, they always said they delayed a lot of surgeries and stuff. Does this have any impact on you? Or?
I haven't noticed it myself. No. Everything. I mean, all the scans and stuff after A&E came on really quick.
Yeah.
I think I'd had all my sort of exploratory stuff done by second week in January.
Crazy.
When's the op booked for?
So when I spoke to the surgeon in March, he said it's going to be about July because obviously he's a popular surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
He's very good, and he's only got one pair of hands, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, he said July, and I actually before I came off the phone with because I'm under a sort of fitness for surgery team, which is a department of nurses that just look after you. And just monitor your symptoms. It's brilliant.
Yes, they should do rather. Yeah, they're not just sign you off until you get your out. Yeah.
And she said, yeah, it's looking like July. She said you might get a cancellation and find yourself like having a phone call saying it's going to be in 2 weeks. So, I mean, I'm not desperate for it.
Yeah.
I know it's got to happen, but I'm quite happy in the meantime. I'm not stressing about it. So it'll happen when it happens. It's more like wife wants to know if the kids can go into this kids club in the holiday and manage your life. Yeah. Obviously I can't go on holiday at the moment abroad. So yeah, I think it's once we've just got a date we can.
Sorry,
what was that?
It was Alexa just telling us that somebody is at the front door. I think it's a shop. Sorry for that.
Do you need to go?
No, I think
What sort of shop is it? A car job or something?
No, we're not doing any advertising for any. They can pay us.
Or
might be the other one. You never know. Might be Domino's. I don't know.
okay, sorry.
Domino's would be good.
Oh, shall we order? Not sponsored.
Yeah, what I was going to ask is, what does life look like just at the moment, really, whilst you're in this kind of limbo state? But you said you're pretty cool about it. You know, regards to lifestyle and doing everything you can to stay fit mentally, physically, everything really.
Yeah, I suppose the biggest difference for me is there is no sport. The cardiologist did say you could go for a jog or
talked about this
a bimble
earlier.
on the bike.
There's no bimble around the children.
Yeah, I don't think he knew where I lived, but it's not happening, is it?
No.
I always love it when the doctors say like, hey, just go for a jog, and then you as a runner, you're like,
I'd rather go for a brisk walk.
We talked about this earlier when I was injured. The consultant said, you're okay to get on the bike. Well, 10 minutes later, the physio was on the phone. He's like, she is not getting on the bike. I don't think you understand what sort of cycling. doing. So that got vetoed, and you vetoed it yourself. It sounds
Yeah.
like.
I love athletes. Like I also have like a funny story from when I was younger. So some of our listeners might know I have a history. My previous career was in canoeing, and one of my mates, he broke his arm, but he had the World Champs coming up.
Essential for canoeing.
Well, yeah, and then the doctor said like, now you can't do much sport with it, and he said like, well, what can't I do? And then the doctor said as a joke, well, you can't do like pull-ups.
Mm.
So the next day he was down at the club. It's like, well, he didn't say I can't do push-ups. So he cut like with a saw. He cut like parts of his what's it called, a cast of the plaster cast off to be able to do push-ups. And
Wow.
then and our coach was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Well, he didn't explicitly
No.
said that.
Worked his workaround.
It sounds like Chris has been like actually quite sensible though.
Yeah.
We are also older now, right? Like back then we were like,
Yeah. And I tell you what, it was easier over the winter. Like it's like
Yeah.
you don't want me to run and cycle.
Okay,
I can deal with that. Yeah. But I'm starting to get itchy now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've made some inquiries with a local gym just to go and sit on the cycle machine, on the treadmill, and of course now it's nice. I'm out walking.
Yeah,
with
walking's good.
with dogs and friends. And if anything, psychologically, just a walk with a friend, just to chew the fat. You know, it's better than the sort of physical benefits. So yeah, walking sort of twice a week. Work-wise, I'm restricted, so I'm not doing any frontline stuff. I'm in the office. I have like deadlines that I can't work past certain times, just to keep myself energized, not too tired. No lifting, no heavy lifting. So when the shop does arrive, the driver looks at me like a scumbag because my wife's having to lift up all the crates.
and you're just
I just
delegating.
stand-
Can you put it in the fridge, please?
Yeah.
And I feel like I have to tell
Yeah.
the driver
by the
every
way,
time.
I've got
By the
a-
way, go and picking up the chicken feed from the shop. Like they
Can you
carry the
lift it for
bag.
me?
Yeah, it's really embarrassing, but that is the biggest thing that they say.
Or what you can do is like a courtesy push. So so basically, when your wife is like carrying all the stuff, you just like push like gently from the rear.
Like, you've not met my wife, have
A
you?
courtesy push, no? It's
I
not.
won't get away with
I
that.
think that's gonna fall with that.
No, it's not for your wife. It's for the outstanders. That they think, oh, you
Okay.
see, at least he's helping her.
I had I told Niels when I was on 2 crutches, everyone was super nice, helpful. Doing 1 crutch.
Get on with it.
it.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Not
should have
so
given you
keen.
that, a courtesy push and push you over.
Yeah, 2. There, everything.
Wow.
Can't do enough.
It's funny,
1.
isn't it? Yeah.
Shopping bag in one hand, crutch in the
That's what I
other.
was trying to do.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So, you said you were filling your time a little bit with cooking though.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, much to the wife's delight.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I suppose not being out cycling and running, it's I've got
It's
a lot more
time consuming.
Yeah.
It's good.
So I've got a lot more time at home, and there's only so much Netflix you can watch. Sorry, can I say that?
That's
Yeah,
okay.
we
That's
say
fine.
everything.
Was it Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So got into my cooking, which has been great, good fun. Just killing time until I get the call, really.
I know what you have done, which is kind of how, not that we weren't talking before, but you've been quite open on social media or Instagram particularly about what happened to you. I remember seeing that you'd had the crash. I don't remember if at the time you'd written about it or whether it was a couple of weeks later, but I do remember that you've just been super open about it, said what you're going through, what's happening, etc., and it's bound to have raised some sort of awareness. Was that kind of your intention, or was it a great way for you to just talk to people and say, especially during COVID time, it's a little bit different as we talked about, but just open up and say, this is what's happening to me and it could happen, or it could happen to you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we've moved on from sort of search engines on the internet. Like, social media has almost become a place where you do some of your research as well. So I mean, I'm on a Facebook group. It's why I stay on Facebook, really. They're great for groups, aren't they? If you need to sell something or you need some information about something. So I'm on a bicuspid aortic valve group. It's like tens of thousands of members, and it just the the information that I got through them, you know, people have actually experienced it and dealt with it, who are in sort of similar lifestyles to myself. I mean, it's just invaluable. So I suppose once I found out I had this issue, you start searching hashtags and seeing who else has got it and what they're up to post, because I just wanted to know what I could do once I'm out the other side.
Surgery,
And I found a couple of useful profiles. Like, there's a guy in, I think it's Arizona, like a full-on rock climber, and he went mechanical valve, and he's on warfarin. He's just come back from South America traveling. But to be able to see that and see someone being able to live that sort of lifestyle, for me, just was a pick-me-up. It just gave me a bit
Probably
of hope.
better than Googling.
It's better than Google, because you tend to get all the depressing stuff really on Google, whereas it's just watching someone live their life. I mean,
also it's so good to see, I guess, that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Right? Like we a couple of months ago, we had Sam Gray on the podcast who was talking about Crohn's disease.
Oh yeah.
So and it was very similar. Like all of a sudden, like he got diagnosed, he went to hospital, and he thought like, oh my goodness, life, how am I going to maintain my life? And he was looking into all these social media groups and found a lot of help there. Actually, I think if I remember right, after we listened to the podcast, he even made a lot of friends with people that he met online that came into different similar situations. So as bad as social media is in a lot of respects, I think there it can be definitely helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to the guy, the rock climber, just asked for his views on his mechanical valve. Obviously follow each other. You know, he helped me out greatly with what he'd experienced and what he was able to do. And then I've had a couple of people since. As a guy in the UK, he reached out to me about 2 weeks ago now. He's just been diagnosed, and he's pretty symptomatic, I have to say. Compared to me, he's got it pretty rough. And asking for advice.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, and I suddenly found myself like, do you know what? I can use this rather than sort of taking pretty pictures when I'm out running and, you know, just documenting normal runs. I thought, do you know what? I can use this to sort of, I suppose, a bit of a cliche, help other people. But if I can provide evidence that life goes on afterwards, and actually you can maintain an active lifestyle, hopefully after my op. And it benefits others, seeing that, like it's benefited me, seeing others, you know, when I was going through it, then God, it's only a good thing.
I think it's great really that, you know, you may not talk about this forever, but someone else may, and I feel like rather than it being a cliche, the cycle just continues. You've got some information and found help and advice from one person, and someone's got some from you, and that will just carry on hopefully for a really long time to come, whether it be about this or about anything else that we want to raise awareness of. That would be a really good way to think about it, really. I think it's
100%. There was another podcast that I once listened to, and I really can't remember what condition the person had, but what the person said was really is somehow stuck. And the person said, look, you know, I'm not an ordinary person. I'm extraordinary, because most of the time you hear stuff, it's just like the average person experiencing this. However, I have my own limits, and I'm yet to find out what these limits will be. And I think this is a really, really good life lesson. If you have a condition, it doesn't mean that you will experience exactly what everybody else did, right? Like the rock climber as an example. Most probably, if somebody would have told him like, you're never climbing again, he might have said like, okay. But with his mindset, he was most probably, I will still try and see if I have this limit. Right? And he will find out a completely different limit than most other people. So I think this is a very positive thing again.
No, I think, you know, in a like a curious way, I'm keen to push myself beyond what I was capable of, you know, post-op. Just to see where, you know,
just to see, you know,
never done an ultra. And I suppose there needs to be a degree of carefulness, but I think certainly post-op I'd be keen to, I mean, it's going to be a long road, but try and push myself more than I was capable of.
I think
before
once
the
you're on the road, you may have everyone's got a different mindset, but I think once you're on it, even in this part of the journey now, as long as things are moving or you can see a change or see a future or see, I think you're always keen to progress, and you're always, you just keep that motivation up. And there'll be some days when, yes, it's tough for everybody, isn't it? You know, sometimes we don't do it, but I think if you can see things moving, it doesn't matter that actually only today I'm only doing a walk or whatever. I don't know the recovery is going to be, but I think just moving forward is always a good thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So good.
What happens, I know we've spoken about it, but you know, again, sounds like a cliche, but how can anyone tell, you know, if they might have this? Or you were lucky in a way,
totally lucky.
You crashed. Sounds awful. And you know, it was discovered, but you may not have ever, which we don't probably even want to think about, but some people will now be thinking about that. You know, is this a thing that's routinely checked? I'm sure there's many conditions like this, but you know, who must have looked at that?
Yeah, so
in line with it, I have a question. How old are you again?
38.
38.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just because I just got a letter recently that I should do my 40 check.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, oh, what's that? But now listening to you.
Yeah, I mean, so 2% of the population have got what I've got.
Okay.
Which, it's 2%, but when you put that in the general population, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like when we were talking before we started recording, we know people that have had one,
said,
and once you start talking about this subject, it comes up, and all of a sudden my wife's
That's you.
colleague's husband, he's got one that's been monitored. So I think certainly when I come across people and we talk about it, it's just making people aware of the symptoms, like the fatigue.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Swollen ankles, swollen feet. Numbness in joints. If you suddenly sort of realise like a loss in performance, so if you're cycling and you suddenly start to lose stamina, that can be a telltale. The migraines, it's all these sorts of things that you're not going to straight away get a scan, but if it's enough to concern you to get yourself to the doctor. I mean, the thing that identified my BAV was it's an ultrasound, so it's not invasive.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually, although you went for the CT scan, that wouldn't have happened.
No,
it's
literally the thing that confirmed it was an ultrasound with some jelly on the chest. I was in there for about 15 minutes. So if I can make people aware of the symptoms, think about it, and if it concerns them that much, get yourself along to the doctor. And if they're really concerned, then it's a non-invasive, quick and easy process to get it identified. I know my father-in-law's just turned 65, and the NHS do routinely scan for the abdominal aortic aneurysm. So obviously, when I mentioned it before, the aorta goes up over the top. It's like a U bend. Goes out over the top of the heart and then down the sort of back, really, towards the tummy. But it's certainly more common in the abdomen. Same sort of issue. The aorta stretches, and then of course there's this dissection risk.
That a lot, yeah.
But this isn't routinely scanned, yet it's still 2%. So
crazy.
It's certainly something. I mean, we could scan for all sorts of things, can't we? But I think if people are aware of the symptoms, it's just something to monitor.
Like anything, it could be anything. If you just notice over time that something's different, and maybe friends, family and everything can pick up on that. Just so Chris, you mentioned a few times that you've had migraines. Is it this or is that could cover a whole host of things that we're just not bothering to go to the doctor about.
Also I think again Corona didn't make it much easier, right? Like for instance with me, I got this letter like, you're 40 now, it was last year, come to the NHS for a check. We will check you, like, I don't know, I think they check you every 5 years or something. And I was like, oh, but it's the Corona zone. I don't want to, be another strain on the NHS. I don't want to, take somebody's spot. So I was basically trying to find all these excuses just to, like, not put pressure on them anymore. About, if there's something serious like this, that can be
then
fine.
you really will be putting pressure on them.
Exactly. It's even worse, right? So.
I think if they, if you're offered anything, whether it's NHS or any kind of thing, and they are doing that for a reason, go.
Yeah, look after your body. I think especially we men, I think we have a bit of a, tendency like, oh, I just, I don't want to shout about it. Like, I will be fine,
Yeah.
and often it won't be fine if you don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't get. I mean, like when I was embarrassed about getting help at the bike park, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Mate, I'm the same.
And we probably just need to be a bit more proactive.
Yeah.
And look after ourselves a bit more.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Like, we're not 12 anymore.
No.
We can ask for help, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it feels kind of positive actually that we've talked about it, and you're thinking actually this is something which I can live with and I will live with, and I'm actually a little bit looking forward to what I could possibly do of everything.
Beat my 5k time.
Yeah, beat your 5k time. Get under 20. It's really difficult to
It
get
is.
under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, dodgy heart or not, it's really hard.
I think my fastest ever was like 24.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It's really good.
But that
still a
was
good
like
time.
half the size that I have now
Yeah.
and half the age.
You can get there, Niels.
Yeah, of
Well,
course.
you and Chris
With my
can
dog,
have
with Benny.
Oh, you're definitely
pulling
doing
Oh
with
man,
Benny.
yeah, God. So I was sub 20 with Hudson easily.
Yeah, we could do it with the dogs. No, I think I do like 16 minutes.
I
Or
bet you
something
did.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's definitely all dog. Yeah, would you canicross? Would you canicross again?
I would. Yeah, I mean Monty, my dad's dog's. He's like 7 now. So
yeah, great.
by the time
Canicross is
I'm
mid,
I'm sure he's still got a few years
It's a
left.
prime age.
Yeah.
Just when they're
I just want to
prime,
sound smart.
4 to 5 maybe, because
Yeah.
they're strong and but you've got to be prime age as well.
What I wouldn't have canicross with was a mechanical valve.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able
Because
to.
it's just stumbles and falls that you have with
Yeah, and then the
the
warfare.
dog.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you have
definitely give it
to
a go.
carry like? I know. Well, you don't go for the mechanical valve, but if you would go for one, you would get like a little passport and stuff to show it. The
I think
metal chip, right?
a lot of people wear like warfarin.
Yeah, I think my dad's got one around his wrist actually.
Yeah, just if if something did happen, the ambo can see it. I mean, yeah, the doctor talks about heading a football. Just stuff like that. It's not so much the cuts and the bleeding; it's the internal bleeding. So a bump to the head or a fall. And it's the clotting inside that they
And you
worry
can't
about.
eat any grapefruit.
Yeah.
Can what?
No, if you're on warfarin, you can't eat grapefruit. I
No,
don't think.
and
There might be some
broccoli and kale,
Yeah.
all the good
I mean,
stuff.
obviously, my dad was not
Oh.
disappointed in any way
Well, I
about
think
that.
kale is okay, right? You don't need kale.
But Chris can have it.
Mayonnaise.
You can't have mayonnaise.
No. Well, apparently you can, and alcohol as well.
But that's okay. I don't drink much
Okay,
alcohol.
fine.
we have
We're
alcohol-
talking about
it's alcohol
situations
free
that
beer.
definitely aren't
But I
healthy
think
for any
it's
of us.
I think it's moderation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's consistent. So
I know, but
li-
yeah, that
little
was kind of
often.
the things that you had to weigh up, wasn't it?
Yeah,
What's going to affect my life and what's this? But it sounds
Alcohol-free
like
mayonnaise. That's fine.
yeah,
it sounds like you have had time to think
Yeah.
about it, and you've made a decision that's right for you.
yeah,
And
and
so,
it's not the right decision for everyone.
everybody.
Yeah.
No.
And that's what I said to this guy. He came back to me this week and said, "What valve are you going for?" Because he's in the same predicament.
Yeah.
And I just said it's really personal, and you need to look at it yourself and your setup and make the decision that works best for you and your wife, really.
Yeah, it's about you and your family as well, and people
Yeah.
around you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good advice, I think. And again, like, you never know what happens in 10, 12 years, right?
No.
The technology or science or whatever, I don't know what the right term is, might be so much more advanced that you might not want to have a mechanical at that point anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So.
I think, Chris, it's been really insightful actually. Niels and I were just silenced, just listening to it. I know I knew some of the story, but I didn't know everything. So it's been really, really insightful. Where can people follow you? Because I know you've got a great Instagram following. What's the best way for people to
that's
catch up with you?
my only way really. So it's My Running Heart on Instagram.
Mhm.
That's a good name.
Yeah,
It's perfect for the.
do you know what? I changed it recently because I thought if I am going to tell people, so my old one was Tiff is Runner.
Yes, yeah.
after
You've
the
ditched off the
bit of
biz now.
canicross and a bit of a nickname. And I thought no, I'd just simplify this and just give it a bit of a focus. So my Running Heart.
In one go or with like underscores and stuff?
No,
No, it's
all
all
one
one
go.
go.
My
Wow,
Running
that's
Heart.
like a bang on name there. Wow.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
And yeah, my my story's going to be on there. Well, it is already, but
Yeah.
obviously a continued journey will be on there. I have seen people having their operations videoed by the surgeon, so they've got video footage of the heart going with the. So
Shall I come with all our setup here?
Yeah, do you know what? You squeamish?
Yes.
Okay, maybe not.
And do you know how long it took him to set up the surgery?
Yeah, that's
Be
true.
like-
And then
Well,
forget to
guys,
put the
we've got
record
another
button.
So yeah, I'm certainly going to ask the question, but
Okay.
we'll see. Yeah, yeah. I just kind of want to be completely transparent.
Yeah.
You know, so that when
Well,
I'm
you watched
running that
videos and it helped you.
running that
Well, yeah,
ultra in 3 years' time,
You
I
can
can
look
say
back on a
look,
video.
it all stems from
Absolutely
this.
crazy.
So.
Really good.
That's so good.
Really, really good. Thank
Chris.
you so much for sharing.
thanks for having me.
It's been,
Fantastic. Thank you
fantastic.
so much for having you. That was
No worries.
honestly like really inspiring, really like eye-opening, like really, really interesting story, and yeah, really great. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks for having me.
And yeah, let's keep in touch.
We'll do. Yeah.
Cool. So, listeners, do you want to say goodbye
Well-
to everyone?
What I normally say, Niels, is where can people follow us?
So, first of all, you can follow us on Instagram at Velocino, VELOCCINO. Then we have Twitter, but we don't really do it. You can follow us on Facebook. But the most important for us, really, if you want to support us, is first of all, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple iTunes, please leave a positive review. That will help us the most.
And you never know, might come back.
Might come back.
He's been missing twice now, hasn't
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? He's really busy. He will come back, we promise. Unless
not.
you don't want
Yeah.
him to come back. No, he
he?
will
We
come
do.
back.
He's the good.
He's a nice guy, actually. And yeah, if you want to get in touch with the podcast, send us an email to hello@velocino.com and we will definitely get back to you. And yeah, that's actually basically it, right?
Yeah, it's really good. When are you off to Mallorca?
Oh, on the 11th of May, if any one of you is out there at the same time and want to get in touch, let me know, but you have to pay the coffee.
Good. Until then.
The best stories have not yet been written. Da-dum! Bum. No, I'm not doing that.
No, press the button.
Oh, press the button.